Okay, so we're going to talk about today how to get your final expense prospect to say yes to buying a policy from you. And here's the thing. This isn't about necessarily what you say at the end of the sales call as far as your closing strategy works. No. Yeses start from the moment you step in the door. Yeses start when you first pick up the phone. And what I'm going to be describing today is how to build a momentum, a tsunami of yeses, so that the big yes, which one will you choose from me, is going to be the easiest of all to get. So if you want to close more final expense prospects into business and to close deals, this is absolutely the video to watch. My name is David Duford. I own Duford Insurance Group. I train and recruit agents nationally to sell final expense, Medicare, and annuities face-to-face and over the phone. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and like the content if you enjoy it. And if you'd like to learn more about my agency, there's a link above or below. Just check it out to see if it's a good fit for you. Okay, so we've kind of talked about what we're going to talk about today, which is how to get the yes, the big yes, out of your client, but made sure to contrast that getting the big yes means that you got a lot of little yeses upon the way. Yeses start early in a final expense presentation. It's not so much the close that matters, it's the opening that matters. There's a lot of emphasis in this business put on closing. And I think that's the old-fashioned type of sales strategy that still somewhat predominates in the business. Well, that's not the case. You got to get the yeses out of the way early. In other words, you got to qualify your prospect earlier on so that they're saying yes to the qualifying factors, so that ultimately they will say yes to the big yes, which is which one of these products you want to go with today. So let's talk about how we take the little yeses along the way and build them into the big yes. So first of all, your prospect has to say yes to you, first and foremost. The cool thing about selling final expense is that most of these products we're selling are no-name brand products. They've never heard of a company called Trinity Life or Americo or some other product before, and they're likely never going to hear of it ever again. And why did these prospects buy from you? Well, because they bought you first. So the most important sale to make is a sale on you. And you got to get your client saying yes to liking you. You got to get them saying yes to trusting you and to saying yes that they, believe you're somebody that can actually help them out. Well, how do you do that? Well, you got to build solid rapport and you got to establish yourself as the expert. And the best ways to do this are going to be a combination of learning more about the prospect by asking them open-ended questions. What's it like being retired? Is it all it's cracked up to be? What's your favorite hobby? What's that like? And going into detail with that, while simultaneously asking good open-ended questions about what's relevant to them regarding life insurance. What do you want your new life insurance policy to do for you? What are you doing with your existing life insurance? Really, you don't have any? So God forbid, what happens if you were to die tomorrow? How will your final expenses be taken care of? And going through this process is going to build simultaneously rapport and trust. And they're thus saying yes to you and believing in you as being the source of the ultimate solution to the problem of not having peace of mind. Second of all, they need to say yes into the belief of the problem. So this gets more back into the pre-qualifying. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? And likewise, you can run a prospect or a final expense appointment with a final expense prospect, but you can't necessarily make him or her buy if they don't believe that there is actually a need. So I think it's pretty important to spend time building that need and more specifically uncovering the need if it's there. So this is why we talk about things in our presentation. I teach my agents nationally. Things like, what were your thoughts and concerns that prompted you to fill out this card and send it back in or request this information? This is why we talk about the costs of funerals and the ever-increasing inflation behind them and giving them a reason to own more coverage and make sure that they understand there's a huge problem, not just in today's costs, but tomorrow. And when you build up the problem that they have and you show them the rawness of it, well, what happens if they aren't prepared and how that affects the people that they love in their life and how it may financially, permanently damage them, then they start to take this stuff a little bit more seriously, thus developing and creating that urgency and need. So by asking these questions, the point is they're saying yes to believing there is an actual problem. And guys, if you want anybody to buy anything from you, they have to believe that the problem exists. And think about it in your own life. You don't go out there and buy stuff that you don't believe is going to help solve a problem, especially the more significant purchases that you do. We're not that haphazard with our money, right? If we don't think it's a problem, we don't spend our money on it. So likewise, our clients won't spend money on a burial insurance plan if they don't believe that it's a problem. So get them saying yes, that there's a problem. And it's through the open-ended lines of questioning in your pre-qualification stage that you're going to find out that the problem is really there. You got to get them also to say yes to a bank draft, and you got to get them to say yes to a budget. So what we do in pre-qualifying is we have to get them to say yes to having us take money out of their accounts. If they don't say yes to that, it's all for naught unless they're the rare unicorn that can cut an annual, semi-annual, even a quarterly check or money order. So you got to get them believing and okay with a bank draft. Again, one of the things we like to do is have that conversation earlier on, then wait through an entire sales presentation before getting to it. Again, I'm a fan of covering the big issues early instead of hiding from them and only getting to them after everything else is done. In my experience, an issue is an issue is an issue, and I'd rather an issue be an issue earlier on than later on, because my time is a pretty important asset, and so is yours. Likewise, we like to get a yes to a budget early on in the qualification stage, in the first half of the presentation, because we got to know that our client is comfortable with a budget range so that we can eliminate that no that sometimes happen when somebody wants to price shop it or perhaps object to paying that particular price. Getting them to say yes to it early on just eliminates that big no that you might hear later that might throw the wrench into the machine that you absolutely want to avoid. You also got to get them to say yes to your product, and not just yes to the product, but yes that it is the best choice for them. So this is why I like to make a comparative analysis with my prospects for final expense about the differences in products that are out there, and how, say, a term product that cancels at 80 is not a good choice versus a whole life product that never cancels, where there's no rate increases, and if eligible can qualify for first day full natural and accidental death coverage. And by making this comparison, it is easier for them to say yes to. We live in a society to where if we make a choice, we always think, well, what if? What if there's another choice that's better? I've also seen these other ads. I've also seen these other services. What if I get something in the future? And what if your prospect does and they change their mind? So you need to be thinking not only just how do I get the sale today, but how do I keep the sale for tomorrow, right? Because one of the things you won't hear from a lot of agencies, you'll hear a lot about submitted business, going into the business and how much business they're writing, and I'm guilty of this too in promoting the agents to do very well. But what you need to understand too, equally important, is what business gets kept on the business, what is sustained, what stays on the books. It's not what you sell, it's what you keep. So you want to make sure in your presentation that they're saying yes to you today as well as tomorrow. And one of the best things you can do is show the differences in products. And luckily, in the final expense space, our competition is terrible. There are overpriced products. There's waiting period products. They hide the fine print. There's term insurance that cancels at 80 that goes up in price every 5 years. This is all trash, really. And our prospects, once they see it, know it. And there's very little convincing that you have to do at that point for them to understand that your product is ultimately a better choice. And then last but not least, if the prospect says yes to all of this, think about it. We're at the close. We're offering the options that fit their budget. We know they can bank draft. They believe that our product's a good fit for them. They like us. They trust us. They have rapport. Why would they not say yes to the big yes? In other words, why is not the biggest yes, the most important yes, the easiest yes? So this is why I think kind of closing and the whole strategy and doing it is a bit overrated, because when you implement a strategy to get yeses in different ways earlier on, the most important yes is the easiest yes. It's like a greased groove. The client just slides right into whatever plan that you recommend to them, and they buy it. And that's the beauty of a presentation that's built on getting yeses early versus the top-heavy type of close-based sales strategy that's high pressure, where you hear no a bunch of times. You don't have to sell like that, guys. The problem with that is it's uncomfortable, it's frustrating, it's emotionally jarring to most people. I prefer the advisor role. I prefer the smooth process. I prefer the pre-qualification approach, so that by the time I'm at the end here, I have the least stress because I know my odds are like 90% plus. I'm going to close this new policy. I'm going to help this person. And then I'm spending my time with a good prospect. And so the most important yes, getting the deal done, is the easiest yes. So guys, this is really how you get people to say yes to buying from you. It's not about coming up with some elaborate fancy close. My close that I always recommend, have used for thousands of presentations, is out of these 3 options, which one do you want to go with? You don't have to know 10 different closes or whatever like that. I very rarely, when I follow my script perfectly, get objections. You just won't hear them because you've overcome them earlier. And the yes that you get at the end is the easiest to get. And this leads, I think, to a simpler, less stressful selling experience, and it's going to help you sustain your energy and momentum in this business and just really enjoy yourself. So hope you enjoyed this content. I like doing these videos. Hope you enjoy watching them. If you'd like to learn more or get more of this kind of content, subscribe and like to this video. And if you'd like to learn more about my agency and how I train agents to do exactly what I've just described, click the links above or below so you can learn more. And thanks for always for watching, and we'll see you next time. David DeFord logging off. See you.